Greatness. Greatness. Greatness.
What's up, YouTube? On this podcast, we talk about behavioral habit training. What does it look like to help our children focus? We want to raise resilient children. And how do we do that? We talk about multiple ways. We go through a study of what that looks like. High intensity, low intensity training, high dose and low dose medication. Are you for medication, against medication? Well, we have an option where it could be both. Once again, this is not a diagnosis for you. This is educational communication on what it looks like to have a child or an adult struggle with ADHD type symptoms. So on this podcast, we just discuss that. We walk through what it looks like as parents at your house to get your kids motivated and focused. So join in the conversation. Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Join with me via Zoom is my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing, baby. Like back in the day when my boy Dave Marion pancaked somebody and I get into the end zone and I would just say, hey, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. And once a champion, always a champion, baby. There it is. What up, my Bison Nation?
And there's the ring kiss.
Amen.
On this podcast, we teach you how to renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. We also have another saying that we lost, that there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. We kind of missed that line because usually the intro song gets us there with our greatness.
The hype song.
But we need to start bringing that one back because
when you see us do the 2, it's not peace, it's 2 times. There's 2 times to be great. There's 2 times to pray. There's 2 times to read your Bible, when you feel like it and when you don't.
Also, Dad, you're like glitching out a little bit. So tell your family to get off the Wi-Fi.
In a second.
Send a text because I know Tavian's home. That boy moved home from college, and I know he's in the other room just streaming Netflix or something. Tell him to go to LTE because we haven't lagged on your end for months. That boy walks in the door and the Wi-Fi starts lagging.
Probably trying to play FIFA.
Right. Tell him to get off and go read a research paper or something.
Getting owned.
Tell him to go read something. All right. I literally got better immediately.
Better?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Did they get off?
Yeah.
So much better.
I sent the text.
Yeah.
So.
Get off now.
Yeah.
Tell them to get off a landline so you can log on to AOL. Yeah, right. Dude, my username was Chesmix 2006.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay. So let's talk about behavioral habit training. Disclaimer. Dad, you want to go through the disclaimer? We're not diagnosing.
Yeah. So this is an educational podcast. This isn't me talking to you or a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm not providing therapy or treatment to you. This is educational, and I'm going directly from an MTA study, multimodal treatment for ADHD. That's the MTA. So Tyler posted in the chat there. You'll see a link I list the study, and then I just give you a summary. So if you want to nerd out and kind of read the summary, that's cool. If you want to download the study, that's even better. If you don't, just listen. I'll teach you enough about this to know. The second thing is, because I'm a clinical psychologist and I teach a lot of what are called alternative therapies and stuff like that, I get full that I'm against medicine, and that's absolutely not true. I do recommend for the kids who I believe through testing. So this isn't going to be pro-medicine. This isn't going to be anti-medicine. This isn't necessarily pro or anti-therapy. So as the study talks about behavioral therapy, I put /training, and here's why. The study was a 9-week training session for summer school. So it was a summer camp really for kids. So to say it's behavioral therapy is misleading because they weren't in a clinic. So I put /training. And the reason I like that is you'll see in the study there, as we kind of talk about this, there are several behavioral principles, training principles. And if you just own one of those and you hammer one of those like all day with your kids will be amazing, whether they have ADHD or don't. And then the last thing I'll teach you, which is the win already in the study, the win is kids who had medication and therapy, behavioral training, they did the best in all groups at all levels. So the win is combination. So before you get leaning either way, and I don't really care if you're pro or against, the idea is let's look at the data, let's have a conversation. Let's be chill about it, and let's stay focused.
Yep.
So that's the disclaimer.
And I just want to say this is also not just like as soon as you hear ADHD, this isn't like just only for people with ADHD. This is a way to improve your focus, your ability to concentrate for anyone, correct? I mean,
Correct.
not just people that struggle with ADHD.
Correct. And just like for a diagnosis of ADHD, several things, but the concept of symptoms, there's 18 symptoms. So when the scale kind of tips, so if you're like over here and you're like walking on that scale, as you get too far out, then the scale tips and then you get a diagnosis of ADHD. But I mean, like things like illusion or, forgetting to park, like that's a symptom, being inattentive or being careless, making careless mistakes. Everybody does it. The issue is it chronic? So we're not trying to diagnose. I'm just showing you the study pieces here, because what I want to pull out is what can we do at home for kids who are inattentive? What can we do with kids who are diagnosed ADHD? What can we do for kids who medicine's not working? Those kind of pieces. So we'll just jump into the study. Okay.
Yeah. No, and I like that too, because like Stella's not on my radar or anyone's radar for ADHD, but she definitely can work on focus. And that's the goal. So hold on. The study you sent me, you want me to post all of them, or is there a part where the medication side, all of it, or just
just post that whole piece? It's just a summary.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's like a page and a half, maybe. I don't remember. So I just summarized the article there, but
the whole thing you sent me.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I'll post it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So people can kind of go over, but I'll just kind of talk about it. Okay. So what they're looking at in the MTA study is multimodal treatments, which ones work. I believe the very first one was like way back in 1988. So they're trying to take a look at this. The most recent one, I think, was 2019. And there's probably one new that I haven't looked at, where they just continue to take follow-up studies, basically on how kids are doing with ADHD on medicine and multiple types of treatment. And then looking for outcome studies, like what really works in real space, real time, real families. Okay. So here's the idea. So they took kids diagnosed with ADHD. They gave them 3 different doses of medicine, low, medium, high. And then they had an option of low intensity behavioral therapy and then high intensity behavioral therapy. And then they asked the question, which kids did the best? So it's like a matrix, right? So a low therapy and a low medicine, how well did those kids do? High therapy, high medication, how did those kids do? So the short answer is this: the kids on the medicine did better than no medicine at all, right? That should be a duh, because it's a treatment. And it was dose dependent, which means the higher the dose, the better the kids did. Okay. Likewise, the kids on low intensity therapy training did better than no therapy at all. That should be a no-brainer. You're paying for therapy. The second thing is therapy was also intensity dependent, which means low kids didn't do good as high kids. So high intensity training beats low intensity, high medicine beats low medicine. The questions, whereas then it gets combo moved, right? So like, what's the most bang for your buck? So high dose medicine versus high intensity therapy. The answer is high dose medicine beat therapy. The question then becomes how long? Well, up front, the first year, after 18 months, therapy kind of takes over and then starts to beat out medicine until they get a new dose and optimize it. Then medicine wins again. So these are like short races. These are like marathon races. And so the question is, what's best for my kid? So the cool pieces about this stuff are the combination moves. So if you take a kid on low dose medicine, which was 5 milligrams twice a day, total of 10 milligrams a day, and you put that child on a low intensity therapy, that kid did as well as a high dose medicine only. So let me say that again: low dose medicine, low dose therapy, behavioral therapy, where they're getting behavioral training. That kid low and low is as good as high medicine only. And so that's pretty cool. So the reason why that's important is like high dose medicine in this study was 20 milligrams of a generic Ritalin, just basically methylphenidate. And so you're looking at 20 milligrams twice a day. Okay. So a total of 40. If you do the low dose, 5 milligrams twice a day, that's 10 milligrams. And then you add the therapy training, that child is saved 30 milligrams per day over the course of however long. Now, why is it important? That's important because the 2 negatives of medication are they don't fall asleep very well. They have sleep insomnia, initial insomnia. Once they fall asleep, they're fine, but they just struggle to fall asleep. And then the second one is they don't eat very well. So in that study, they also documented which kids have the strictest appetite suppression. And I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I'll try to, but they're in that form there. But like the placebo effect, the kid ate who had a placebo medicine, they ate about 81% of their meal. And then the low dose, they think they ate like 73% of their meal. And then the moderate dose, medium dose, they ate like 59% of the meal. And then the kids on the highest dose of medicine, they only ate 43% of their meal. Roughly, those are the numbers. So if you're eating literally a third of your meal on your highest dose over time, that kid doesn't necessarily lose weight in the data. Initially, that kid, let's say Joey's going to lose weight initially on those high dose meds, but over time he'll catch back up and he'll gain back what he lost. So in an average year, it's not true that the panic of parents is like that kid will lose weight. That's not true. What is true typically is that he won't gain anything in that year. So he'll maintain his weight and he just slows down. So now if you put him on high dose meds for a few years, he will usually fall behind in a couple of years. So those are the kids I get like, hey, here's Joey and he's struggling with, weight gain, stuff like this. What do we do? And so we can try to drop the medicine down a notch, not a ton, because his academics will fade until we can get behavioral training back up. So the biggest win of all is obviously we want to test a kid per who he is. You might have two kids ADHD, one needs more meds than the other. The one really loves behavioral training more than the other. So we'll have to have one kid on high dose meds or moderate dose meds, low therapy. And the other kid who thrives in therapy, he's high therapy, low med. So that's just going to depend on the child. But the cool piece for you is to understand there's options. You don't have to go, I'm against meds, and you don't have to say, oh, I'm only meds. There's combinations, and I want you to focus on that. So this was one of the first studies, I believe 2009, when this particular piece came out, and then it's been researched and kind of followed up since then. I think this one that we're talking about is 2012, if I remember off the top of my head.
Pause real quick.
Yep.
Bridget had a question, and I was about to ask the same thing.
Okay.
So we're talking about behavioral training, low intensity, high intensity. I have no idea what that means.
Correct. I just wanted to give you the study pieces, and you'll have that there. And then we're going to spend the whole entire time talking about that next section.
Yeah. So what does that mean? So I understand low dose, high dose, right?
Yep.
Less, more.
Yep. Correct. So it's 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams twice a day, right? So 10, 20, 30.
I just took 4 Tums right before the show started. Okay, go ahead.
Bro, sick. Not just kidding.
Dude, Dega's food truck, shout out to Tyson Sanchez, is up today. And so I may or may not have stopped for lunch and dinner. Anyways. Go on. Carne asada tacos. Okay.
Yes.
Add guac.
Those are fire. All right. So
what's behavioral training therapy?
Yeah. So this was a summer program.
High.
Summer program, 9 weeks long. Okay.
Well, I'm not even the thing, just like in normal life.
Yes. So here's what it was. It was a summer camp. One knock against the study is this wasn't actually therapy in an office training. It was like a therapy camp. So like parents can't do all this training in the day, right? So, okay. So low intensity is this. So, well, before I talk about that, we'll just talk about the behaviors. So everything was documented and daily expectations of what you have to do every day to earn points. So the big blanket is there's a point system, and you earn points by doing X, Y, and Z. And the X, Y, and Z was dialed out exactly how you earn a point, how you earn 2 points, how you earn 5 points. It has to be outlined. Here's the research. If a kid knows the consequences before they behave, they have a 75% compliance record. Let me say that again. If a child knows the consequences that are going to come, like what happens if I spit on my sister? If that's been spoken about, the child is 75% more likely not to do it. He'll comply. If they don't know, like there'll be a consequence, like you will answer to me.
Uh-oh. I think we lost him. I think we lost him. My Uncle Ben said Darth Vader's still showing up. Yeah, I think his Wi-Fi is tripping. All right, he's probably going to leave this call, and then he'll have to come back. But in the meantime, I just jotted that fact down. Yeah, he's frozen. Yeah, Mom, if you're watching, head down, tell him to leave the call, and then we'll get him back in. I think I just jotted that down. when a student or child knows the consequence beforehand, they're 75% more likely to comply. That's crazy to me, especially being in youth ministry. There's always the struggle as a parent is always we always throw out like blanket consequences, like you're never going to eat dinner. You're never going to, or you're going to go to bed at 8:00. And so I think that's a struggle. The other one is,
There we go.
There we go. The other one is, I think that's crazy that if we give them a specific consequence, 75% more likely to comply.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
So where'd you lose me at? Yeah, you froze first, and then I was laughing, and then I froze, and then I was like, oh.
Yeah, you were froze.
Okay.
I was stuck on, I just went back in the meantime and was talking about the 75% more likely to comply when they know the consequence. That's the last big piece I heard. So just pick up, explained that already. Yeah. So the specific consequence, then what?
Okay, so then there's specific rules and expectations. Social skills were outlined of like what considers pro-social. So like if I help you, that's called pro-social. If I steal something from you, anti-social or asocial. Yep. So those kind of got points and rewards. Social praise and reinforcements. So at our house, we talk about being a cheerleader. Our kids are all super competitive. And when Valencia is raised by monkeys, AKA Tyler, Tavian, and Terrence, she starts to own people like, oh, I got you.
That's not true. I don't even live in the house.
Okay, but you used to.
No.
Or when you come over.
A baby.
Okay, so if you guys are in the chat, let's put in the chat, who is the sibling who ostracizes Valencia the most? I guarantee you all three say you.
Tavian.
There's no way. Tavian reacts to her probably the strongest, but you ostracize her all the time.
No.
Yeah, exactly. No. Like, who's the favorite? Who's the firstborn? Who's mom loved the most? And then she's like, Dad! She
needs to know the facts.
What? Okay,
continue.
So listen. So back to this, like you get pro-social points for praising others, rewarding others, cooperating with others, like those pieces. And then this is the coolest piece for me, just because of knowing who I am. They had athletic skills training. So like, Sunnybrook in our town here, Sioux City, they do a skills training camp, right? So skills school. So like you can learn how to shoot a bow, you can learn how to play basketball, you can learn how to golf, whatever. They had skills training athletically. So sports specific camps. And now they did these pieces every day, right? And now, okay, so low intensity is that same exact program, right? Everything is modeled from your social skills to your cooperation, to your language, to how fast you comply, right? All those are points and awarded. So in the low intensity, they only got rewards like weekly. So it was kind of like not pressured on them. The second thing is when they messed up, they kind of got hugs and nurturance, and they got talked to, kind of like, hey, this is how this works, but they never lost points. You can't take points from them. Now, the high intensity group, they got points and rewards every single day, and they lost points or gained points every single day, and they had points at the end of the day, which then translated to more points in the week. So it was intense because like you couldn't get away from the training.
Okay.
So more expectations, more on you. So the difference between like a hands-on coach who's on you 24/7 and a coach who just checks in with you once in a while. Yep. Makes sense? Yep. So in the research though, either one of those, low intensity or high intensity, either one of those helped. Okay. So if you ask yourself a question, and again, on that form that we posted, those are the systems you could look at. Like number one, do I have a point system?
Yep.
Number two, do I have clear rules and expectations about what's going to happen? So at our house, we use that when then concept. Like when you punch somebody, they get to punch you back. And everybody else is like, wait, what? Like, why? Well, because pain will limit you from exerting pain. You know what I'm saying? Now we give a choice, like at our house, like if Valencia punches Tavian can say, Valencia, you owe me a chore, or Tavian can hit her back.
I'm hitting her back.
Most of you are going, that's ridiculous. I'm like, hey, when you give people choices and they have a choice to inflict pain, Valencia's first thing she has to think about is like, wait, Tavian's going to have a choice to hit me back. That instantly, again, 75%. It's not necessarily that the behavior has to be like legit or the best well-researched. She just has to know. So she knows if she goes over her electronics, she loses it. So there's all these little pieces that she knows the consequence. So when you do X, then you get Y. Okay.
So well, like, and even for your kids, that whole punching thing didn't really help Tave, because when Tave was a kid, that dude could get hit 15 times in a row and he would come back and do the exact same thing.
He'd
So
laugh.
you had to switch it. So it's like,
Right.
it's not just a blanket, the house rules. There's a difference for each kid, which is a huge piece we teach at the marriage conference, that you can have the ability, and Alicia taught it on Sunday, to parent your kids differently.
Yeah. Tavian would hit Terrence back. Terrence would never hit Tavian back. He would just say, you owe me a chore. And so just having the option of discipline, having those options,
specific for kids,
and they're laid out. So you and your husband you and your wife might disagree, but come to an agreement. And it doesn't matter if it's my plan or Tyler's plan. Like, this is how we run our house. It just has to be a rule. So for example, if Valencia has trash night on Monday nights and she doesn't do her trash, she owes me a chore tomorrow, which would be Tuesday, because I take the trash out for her. Right. So she has to pay me back a chore, and then she loses electronics. So there's an immediate thing where she owes me, and a delayed thing of the consequences. Now, again, using the intensity system, like I could just talk to her and warn her and just do the love and logic thing. The question is, does it hit home? And the answer is yes, over a long time, right? So this is 9 weeks of behavioral training, low intensity therapy worked. Low intensity over a year where you sometimes punish and sometimes don't, and you're all over the place. That's not low intensity.
Consistency.
It's consistent. Remember, you got to remember, it's consistent, black and white, when thens. When this happens, and that happens. And if it's not on the sheet, go with the basic concept of you lose electronics for 24 hours. Go with your basic punishment routine, because that helps.
But even then, if your kid doesn't do electronics, then they lose their book, their coloring, their drawing. I mean, whatever is applicable to that child in your house.
Right. So Terrence lost Legos. Terrence lost manipulatives, which are Hot Wheels and, little fighting dudes. And Tavian lost his transportation stuff, skateboard, bike, rollerblades, his little whipstick or whatever, ripstick, so he lost the transport because he's an outside kid. So it's okay that you just take the thing that affects them and then you move on. And I promise you, after a couple of times of you being consistent, they in turn have self-awareness. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. Dad's going to catch me. I'm going to lose this. Now here's the question. This is where we are as adults. Like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it worth it? And that's where you have to understand. So then the next piece is, how do you give social praise? Are you a person who only just like says, hey, good job, when they do an out of this world thing? Like, you only say good job to your kid if he hits a home run. You only say good job to your kid if he's player of the game. Are you way out there like that? Well, then you got to lower your time when you give praise. Like, and here's the research. This comes from Dr. Dweck. We've talked about her from the Growth Mindset. She's from a licensed clinical psychologist research psychologist from Stanford. The concept is, if you don't praise the effort, you're ruining your kids. So if you're the person who says, hey, I'll pay you $20 every time you get a home run. So I don't know, maybe twice a year, your kid gets $20 because he gets a home run. Okay. What your kid thinks is a base hit, a double, he's depressed. Why? Because you don't praise him for the base hit.
Yep.
Right. So it's better not to praise the efforts. It's better not to praise the outcome. It's 100% better to praise the effort. So you could just say the kid makes contact, hits it deep to center, and it's out. You hug him like, bro, the contact on that ball, dude, that was fire. Just happened to go right to Joey, but you're okay. Now,
it's almost like the what moment in the effort.
Absolutely. Because listen, if you reward what a kid can control, which is effort, they know they have 100% what's called LOC, locus of control, over the effort. I can control the effort. I can't control if the ball goes right to a dude. Right. And so you got to be careful what you reward, because if you reward, like, I'll give you $1 every time you score a goal, a kid, they might win, but he only got 3 assists. He gets 0 cash. He's depressed, but the team won. We kind of ruin our kids. We ruin our kids that way. It's effort, effort, effort. So you'd go, hey, dude, that was a great effort. That was a beautiful pass to Tyler. I'm so proud of you. It's effort, effort, effort. Okay. So that's the social praise.
Yep.
And then the other one is the athletic skill training. Athletic skill training. If you're teaching tennis, if you're teaching ballet, or if you're not teaching, you're paying for a coach to teach that. The same thing. Your daughter gets up, in the car, and you start asking her how'd she do, and you're praising closer approximations. So Valencia was scared of doing a back handspring, and she came to me and said, Dad, what will you do if I land this in the state tournament? And I just looked at her and I'm like, Would you rather have a date night with me? Would you rather have cash? Or would you rather have, and Tyler, everybody's laughs because I use intonation to kind of influence her. So now I'll say, would you rather have a sleepover and a pizza party? And then she was like, sleepover pizza party. And then guess what? She nailed it in the state tournament. Like, she's just like, it kills me. Like, what? So if you give a kid a reward that they'll choose, and you're rewarding an outcome that has to come from her. I can't say, hey, if you land this, I'll give you this, because it puts anxiety on her. But if she comes to me and says, Dad, what can I get if I can land it? She's basically saying, give me something to focus on because I'm nervous.
Yep. Well, now you probably set a pattern that the next competition, she's coming to you and say, okay, if I can, land the next trick or, stunt, then what?
Yeah, then she might. But right now she's working on an aerial, and she's nailing him on the trampoline with no incentives or whatever. Yep. And she's trying it, and she'll put her one hand down. I haven't offered anything. If she comes to me, we'll work it out. Yep. But I'm not going to offer it, because I'll talk to her. I'm like, hey, how hard did you work on the aerial? Hey, how close did you get? And I'll just give her a hug and a praise. Okay. Sweet. So all these pieces. So let's look over it again. So the when then of like, if I punch or spit on a kid at home, what happens to me? If I don't wash my face, or if I lie about brushing my teeth, what happens to me? I know it sounds weird, but you could put those in categories. Like there's a disobedient category. There's a lie or a cheat category. Like there's a, you didn't give any effort category, or you blatantly hurt somebody category. And then you can have those categorically, like those are the consequences. Like when this happens, then here's your consequence.
Or even the biggest, we use the when then statement when our girls are not doing what they're supposed to do and crying about it. When you finish your dinner, then you can get up. When you pick up your toys, then we can watch a movie.
Yes.
When you put away the Play-Doh, then we can play coloring.
Yeah.
I mean, that statement is not just for consequences, though.
No,
that statement,
it's everything.
It connects that they're not doing something, and until they do that, they can't do B.
Correct. And it helps you as a parent to stay logical, which is prefrontal cortex, left brain, like that sequential memory, sequential process, like first, second, third, fourth. And then it helps them as they're crying and melting down. And you come in like, what's wrong with you? Like we all just get triggered. So if you come in and just be like, hey, when you do this, then you can get your snack. Yep. And then you come back in their ball and you're like, when you do this, then you get your broken record. They know what you're going to say the third and fourth, 15th time. There's no reason to escalate. They just put off their thing.
Yep. Okay, I like it because of that. I like to be able to say, otherwise it's like, I told you you're supposed to do this. You need to do this. How many more times can I tell you? I've already told you. It's like, man, it gets old to come. And then you start getting to, do you have a brain?
Yes.
Are you thinking?
So there's the clear expectations. Okay. There's the when then, right? And then the other one is that rewards and praise. And here's something I need to say. In the low intensity, they got just hugged and praised, right? They didn't get any points taken away. So that's called a cost or response cost or a cost benefit. But the response cost plan, your kids have to at least be in or past division and multiplication. You start taking stuff away from them, they don't understand. They'll start melting down. Like, you lied to me, you gave me points, now you took away the points. So low intensity is you can't take anything away. It's called reward only. Okay. Now, this is important. If you're in the in high intensity concept where your kids are old enough to get it and you remove points for them, those have to be dictated. So like if I tell Valencia, like, if you mow, I'll give you 10 points. So she mows. Boom, 10 points go in her cookie jar. And then she forgets garbage. I can't take away any of those 10 points. Take a guess why?
Because she mowed.
She mowed. She got paid for a mowing job. The mowing job isn't connected to garbage. Do you see what I'm saying? And kids are so black and white like that. They'll ball and ball and ball. And you think it's because they lost points for garbage. You don't get it. But they're like losing trust in my dad. Like, my dad's a liar. But they can't articulate that. They break up with you kind of emotionally. And then you're like, hey, would you like to do this for 10 points? And they're just like, no, and they cop this attitude. You can't take away cash that they earned in a job. Now you can do this though. You can give them, like, I'll give you a bonus points of 5 points. If I don't have to remind you of anything, then you remind them. So you take away one of those 5 points. You can do it that way. Okay. Yeah. So you have to just really be really conscientious about what this looks like on the back end. So we're teaching our kids self-awareness. You absolutely have to have self-awareness with, like, what am I going to do to my kid? How is this going to settle with my kid? Our job isn't to exacerbate them, make them angry, or make them upset, or break their emotional spirit.
Yep.
Our job is to teach them, and this is this next one, which is social problem solving. So when you come up to a situation and your kid's bawling, you can't just say like, "What the freak's wrong with you?" Or you know, like, "Hey, you're not even hurt. I'll give you a reason to cry." "Hey, what happened?" "Hey, how come you're sad?" And then she might say, "I'm not sad. I'm mad." "Oh, I'm sorry. How come you're mad?" And you get into the feeling emotional state, and then you'll say, "Oh man, that's such a hard one. I remember that when I was a kid. I had such a hard time. Like, I don't even know. Like, maybe I can. How about if you and you play dumb?" And then before you notice, you start to just sentence them. Like, if that was me, if Maria was my friend, I'd probably call Maria and then she'll go, I would just say, and she pops up. And then you go, "Hey, that's a good one. Let's try it. Like, go for it. You want to text her or call her?" And then you back away and let them problem solve it. And then they come back to you and say, "Well, here's what happened." Okay. I notice those kids in the clinic when they're really good at social problem solving, they go to bat for other kids. Like they come in and talk about the drama, like, "Hey, I tried to break up Tyler and Terrence. And the reason I jumped in there was because of this and this and this." And they have that pro-social behavior where they're starting to break up bullies and stand in the gap for people because they get it. Other kids just melt down and be like, "I can't even have any friends because Tyler's a jerk."
Yeah, they empathize with other people too.
Yes, correct. And so this all starts at home with social problem solving. Okay. Because if you get a kid to social problem solve, I know it seems weird, but they don't have to do as much medicine. And the reason is the medicine's helping them to do all these pieces, drop all the symptoms. And it's so hard that it kind of closes in their narrow minded focus. So we call it hyper focused on the medicine. They get hyper focused. So they get so focused on small little details that they miss some social skills sometimes. True. And they miss some other pieces. So there's consequences to high medicine. There's consequences to not putting your kids on medicine. So we have to have the conscious effort of like, okay, what does this child need? And is it better to push in therapy pieces, or is it better to push more higher dose of meds? And sometimes the answer is both. Sometimes it's neither. Just talking to the child and realizing like it's a mistake they made.
Yep.
Okay.
I would just go in to say, the behavioral training for low intense and high intense, that is a great parenting tool for anyone. Your kid could be off the charts for, focus and not even a question on ADHD, but that's an amazing tool. We've been doing that with Stella probably now for, she's 5, probably two years. And we start off with low intensity. I didn't know it was that. We just did the point system.
Yep.
So it was, now looking at it, it was low intensity. She didn't lose points. And that's what Eliza is at right now. She's 2. So Eliza is on a low intensity points chart. When she does something she's supposed to, like every morning, if Alicia puts her shoes, socks, pants, and shirt on the ground, and if she gets all of those on by herself, she gets a point. But now she's young, so we don't take away. She doesn't lose a point. She just doesn't earn a point, and we're really clear on that. Hey, you didn't earn a point this morning because you did this, but we're not taking points away from her right now. And that's exactly how Stella started. And then now Stella's to the point where Stella loses points. She earns points and she loses them. We're very clear on why she loses them. It's not fun to take away points. I mean, she cries and screams, but the point chart has helped us more for tasks and helping out around the house and chores, helping her learn she's got to pull some weight and do her own thing. And then I really like to reward what she's doing and how she's doing it. So if she goes above and beyond, she gets 2. Her normal task she's supposed to do, she gets 1. But that's something any parent can do regardless of where your kid is on the spectrum of ADHD.
Yeah, correct. And it's little things too, like if you think about like when the kids start to learn a program, and this is where the low intensity piece comes in, you have to reward every single time it happens. So like if we talk to a dog scratches the door to go potty every single time they get a treat, right? Well, I'm not trying to say a kid is a dog, but when you're learning a new behavior from an organism standpoint, we all want to like have constant reminder because we're brand new.
Yeah. Well, we just did this with Eliza. Yeah. When she went for potty training, she got a sticker every time she tried to go to the bathroom. Then she got a sticker and an M&M and a prize every time she went to the bathroom. But every time she sat on the toilet, she got a sticker. And then she got 2 for going poop, you know what I'm saying, number 2. and then she got a toy from a chest. So this lady was getting a sticker, 2 M&Ms, and a toy, and now she poops without anything or pees, right? She doesn't get any of that. But to start that, it's just like adults. We got to get those small wins. And we didn't know this, but we let Stella pick out her own toys and prizes, which because then she knows what's coming. But
Correct.
you know, some of these things we do by accident and then we find out later.
Tough to load. Yeah, but you were also raised mostly correct.
Who was?
Huh? What?
Who was? All right, we got some trolls in the comments over here.
Okay.
Bridget said, "When I run on the treadmill, I get Hawk's coffee." When then?
That's absolutely correct.
Hey, that's true though. If I'm when we go run and then I go get Starbucks nitro cold brew, that I'm thinking about that as I'm dying and breathing.
So yeah, when I was at the University of Iowa and I started understanding incremental rewards, like so in the very beginning, you reward yourself up front in the beginning because you can't even motivate to do it. So just doing it, just showing up, you reward yourself. And then a little bit later, you reward yourself for like that first mile, a little bit later, that 3 mile, whatever.
And then times.
And I was trying to stretch myself because when I read, I get headaches because of dyslexia. And so I put these blue transparency sheets over it, which will last a little longer, but I still get headaches. But I literally would go to Quick Trip and get a Snickers and a Coke. Like if I could go like 2 hours without a headache or fight through my and then by the time I graduated,
you mean Mountain Dew?
Okay, that's absolutely true. Actually, back then in graduate school, I had Mountain Dew and a Snicker. Now I switched to Coke and a Snicker, but the concept is still there. And then I remember when I got older, I could go to the law library, check out this key, head down, lock myself in a room, and I could study for 6 or 8 hours and just have snacks. I mean, it's a learned behavior to stretch yourself.
Ben said, when you eat Dagas, then your mouth will burn. And I said, no, when you eat Dagas, you'll get heartburn. And then Bridget said, when you don't use sunscreen, you get burned.
Yes, correct. Correct.
Bridget asked, what do the points earn? So for us, we have a line with a star, and Stella can get 5 points equals a small toy, or she can check another box, which means bank it. And so she can get 5 points, bank it, and then get 10 points. And that's a bigger toy. And then she can bank 5 and 10 and then get the biggest toy. And she picks those out. That's when she gets all of her unicorns or her LOLs, pretty much whatever she wants. But 5 is a small toy. 10 is a big toy. And Eliza's just at the 5. She doesn't understand saving. So at 5, she gets a toy too. Yeah.
And Valencia has the same sleep program that the boys had when they were little. But basically, it's a sleep chart on the door. Same concept. You get 7 nights in a row. You get points, but you can bank it for the next week, bank it the next week. And then at 21 points, you can have a sleepover and a movie. And so the concept is small reward, small points. The bigger the reward is because of it's a delayed gratification.
Yeah,
because you're teaching
them to save a little bit.
Teach them to save and delay. Correct. Yep. So the other thing I want to talk about too is they didn't talk about much in here, but that exercise routine, which is that skill. I promise you, y'all know who I am, but like the research on the mind is when you exercise, okay, you boost serotonin, which decreases your stress. You boost dopamine, which increases your motivation. Okay. People think that's the reward drug. That's erroneous. It's absolutely the reward, the motivation drug. And the last one is norepinephrine. Norepinephrine increases your focus. So I'm less stressed, I'm more motivated, and I'm more focused following the 2 hours after a workout. So once we know that, and we're trying to push ourselves in that direction, how in the world can we not push our kids? Now, by pushing, we can incentivize things we want them to do. Like if I want my daughter to do, elite training somewhere or hire a coach or something, I can incentivize that with, if you show up every day and you don't cry and you don't whine and you're ready on time, blah, 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 you can get points. Otherwise, I will incentivize what you want to do. Like, hey, do you want to take tennis lessons? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Which one will you do? And then we push her in the one that she wants to do. That way it's not a fight. Yep. But I promise you, if you don't have a child in some sort of motoric repeated trials training, you're doing them a disservice to their brain. Now, what does that look like? It could be cheer. It could be taekwondo. It could be swimming,
dance.
It could be dance.
Gymnastics.
It can be gymnastics. It could be like theater, because you're doing your repeated lines, you're repeating behavior. It could be choir. It could be band. Anything that they have to increase their performance based on repeated trials. The reason is That uses the back of the brain, the cerebellum, and it coordinates the motor cortex, and it's timing and rhythm. So it helps them to stay on pace, which is focus. And so the smallest little thing of training is still going to help prevent ADD-like symptoms for average kids, or what they call neurotypical NTs. And then for the ADHD kids, it's going to limit the amount of damage that the ADHD brain does to their performance side. And if you don't believe me, take a look at Michael Phelps. He's got ADHD. Medicine didn't work for him. Went through a bunch of doctors, a bunch of therapists, a bunch of specialists. His mom stumbled on a lady who says, my kid loves swimming, and I think his ADHD symptoms drop. So they put him in swimming, and the dude just became obsessed, hyper-focused with swimming. And there's I probably think about 10 professional MLS international soccer players that I researched. Same concept. We couldn't find anything for our kid. Medicine wasn't working. He was so hyper. Put him in soccer, and the dudes do great, graduate, and are elite. I'm not saying your kid's going to be elite, but I'm saying it'll definitely help.
Yep.
Okay.
Mom brought up a good point. It said, the rewards don't have to be tangible. They could be activities with no cost. We do that
Correct.
as well.
Correct. In fact, if you asked me like the most bang for your buck, Valencia's top two right now are she wants to sleep in our room. She says for free, which means she doesn't have to give up anything. Or she'll ask for a date night where she wants to go out to a movie with me, or out to dinner and a movie, or she wants to watch a family movie.
Yep.
So or a family board game. We do those things anyways. But like if it's a reward night, she gets to pick the dinner and the activity and the movie, and it's just she likes to control the scene.
Yep.
So it's almost like she's a teacher ordering us to do things.
And that's no cost.
It's no cost, and it's actual activity.
Yeah, and building relationships. And for Eliza and Stella's points, we're talking about like a $2 toy or a $3 toy. Some of the cheaper toys are actually what they're the most excited about. But so we're not talking about a ton of money. I mean, we're talking about $3 every other week, maybe, if they're
and you can make it educational too, for sure. Like we do books and Barnes and Noble's points, stuff like that too. So Valencia can buy books, and she likes to get books. So
Ben said shopping, movies, etc. Yeah, any of that stuff.
Yep, correct. You don't want to, or I'd say this, not don't. You want to avoid food and candy and stuff like that reward, just because that sets up a wrong reward system. That reward system's already powerful enough. Like, how many of y'all struggle with sugar? Hello? Like it's hard. So we don't want to reward that if we can.
Steak tacos.
Yeah, with exception again of it's not earned, it's an activity. So the one time Valencia gets ice cream, and all our kids, even Tyler, like when you have those like school plays, those school performances, it's just fun to pick them up from school. We're all off work early. We just go to Dairy Queen or whatever and get an ice cream cone. It's kind of a fun little reward. It's not necessarily an activity that like you're rewarding ice cream. It's like, hey, we're all together, let's celebrate.
Or we do it when like we get to go to a movie and get popcorn. You can add like the snacks from that, but
correct. Yep. Correct. All right. So the last behavioral system that they don't talk about because it was a summer camp that I think is probably one of the most, it should be on this top list of the 4 things that I presented, like the when then, the reward only versus the reward and losing points. And then the exercise plan, the repeated trial learning, that's an intensity thing we want to have. And then the 4th one I have here that you can start as a family is you have to focus on either your sleep routine or either your wake up routine. In the science, if you can dictate your circadian rhythm, it absolutely restores your head. The research is crazy. We should do a whole show on it. There's other people talking about it. I've talked about it for years with the light sensitivity and all that kind of stuff. But here's the basic premise. If you go to bed from 10 to 5 a.m., 10 to 6 a.m., that window of time, you'll go to bed and be fully restored. There's a whole bunch of brain and neuroscience about it. But you wake up, you have forethought in your brain, like first, second, third, fourth. You can just prioritize your day. Once you decide to do something, you have dopamine to start and dopamine to finish. And then you anticipate the reward to finish. And so once you finish, you feel good about it. So on those days, you start to just kill it without even realizing it takes that much effort.
Yep.
Now, check this out. A same person who gets the same amount of sleep, which is 7 hours, but they go to bed from midnight to 7 a.m., they wake up and have priority in their head. They have a good idea to get started, but they lose dopamine in the middle and they start a bunch of projects and can't finish.
I feel
and the worst is a person who goes to bed 2 a.m. and then sleeps till 9. They wake up and are just like, they got brain fog and they don't even know what hit them. And they're like, maybe I'm sick. And they just like call in sick, or they're starting to just lay around until something outside of them an external variable. Like Tyler knocks on my door and says, dude, we're going to work out. Like, I mean, maybe it's a dream, but I'm just saying. But if that did happen,
if you promise me Hawks coffee
or promise to go golfing after.
Yeah.
Then so I need you to really hyper focus as a family on the sleep routine. Or if you're like, sleep's too hard for us, like everybody gets home late. Okay, fine. Then let's focus on the morning routine. There has to be a solid morning routine where it's everything throughout the whole entire morning is the when then concept all the way through until you get in the car and you're gone. Because those are the two biggest wins. Like those are the places I start is like the sleep routine, the morning routine. And let's say you're like, okay, we've been there, done that this whole entire year, 2020, we knocked that out. Then I would say, then let's focus on the hygiene routine, deodorant, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, not wearing crusty underwear inside out, AKA my oldest.
Struggle's real. Struggle's real.
But yeah, a lot of people tell me like, they're like, hey, can I ask you a personal question, Doc? I'm like, always. And they're like, they kind of like lean in. They're like, how do I get my kid to shower? Because I'm pretty sure like, he wears.
And they're all middle school boys. Promise. Promise.
Oh, 100%. And I'm like, it's just that they're autonomous, man. They're like, I don't have to shower. My mom.
Every time we go on a youth trip, dude, I'm like, do you shower? No, I wash my hair. Yeah. Do you shower? No, I switched my shirt. I'm like, dude, we have a mandatory shower Wednesday at camp. Everyone has a shower Wednesday. Regardless if you did Monday or Tuesday, do you shower? Everyone showers Wednesday.
Yeah, because they all tell you they showered and they didn't.
Yeah,
it's a normal thing. They're trying to.
I have kids go in there, turn the shower on, and just come back out. And I'm like, "There's no way you showered. You just turned it on."
It's so funny to me. Sorry.
No, I mean, before we looked into that though, like back when I was, before I gave up Xbox and stuff, I would play till midnight, go to bed, sleep till 7:30, and tell myself I got 7.5 hours. But it literally never felt that. I was always super tired. Now we go to bed 9 or 10. And I can wake up earlier and still feel more rested. That's wild.
Yeah. When I work with college kids or college young adults, they'll say the same thing. Like, bro, why aren't more people talking about this? Like you should announce it. You should say something. I was like, it's not mine, it's research, but just to announce it and then to feel the effects of it is pretty amazing.
Well, and so the other thing I used to do, so then when I gave up Xbox, I was still on that routine. So what I would do is I would work, like put the girls down and then do some editing or sermon writing from 9 to midnight, go to bed, wake up at 8. And still didn't feel good. So now I go to bed earlier and I'll get up at 4 or 5 and work from 4 or 5 till 8. And that way better.
Yeah, correct.
The other way I'll be draggy all day long. Even though I wake up earlier, I still have more energy moving forward.
Yeah. So here's the premise. The premise is this. There isn't many problems in our world that you can't outwork. And don't forget that, like, hard work is a great equalizer. Hard work will take you places that maybe your IQ can't, maybe your cash book can't, your checkbook, but hard work can. And if you put that into kids, there's nothing that they can stop them. Like people always say this, like you can be whatever you want to be. Okay, technically that's not true. Like, Valencia is not going to be a 7-foot center in the women's WNBA. It's not going to happen, right? Yeah. She's going to be shorter like Stacy. But you put your mind to anything you dream of, you can do it. And so that means she could make the WNBA, but she's not going to maybe be a center if that's her dream, right? So this is the thing I want to show you. If you teach your kids to outwork their problem, what will stop them? Just pause for a second. If you teach your kids to outwork their problem, what can stop them? Like I have dyslexia. I was in special ed until 6th grade. Like I was so far behind, like I didn't know I was smart. And I want you to focus on this concept of like, how do you outwork a problem? Daily habits. How do you start a daily habit? Get to bed on time. How do you get to bed on time? Turn off your social media. How do you turn off your social media? Unplug, get rid of it, throw it, flush it, whatever you need to do. It is nuts to me that the average student from 13 to 19 spends 6 hours a day on social media.
Yeah.
6. And at 5 hours, it starts to breed depression. And then we wonder why so many kids are suicidal, cutting their wrists, scratching themselves, having eating disorders, like not going outside, quitting their job, like hiding. It's because of social media. I mean, I'd be a wreck, absolute wreck. I promise you, if I was at Woodrow Wilson, when I had a big old fro, we had no money, we were on welfare. I rode my bike to school. Like I didn't want my mom to drop me off because we had such a crappy car. No offense to my mom. She's a single parent mom who worked 3 jobs and killed it. But like, we just weren't there. And so like, if I had social media at that time, like I ought to beat the snot out of some boy who's like bragging about their dad's car or something, or some dude rolls up with a, $1,000 moped. Like I ought to ninja punched him. Like I didn't have it. I didn't have the self-control. I was angry. Like I do that. I can understand middle schoolers. I really do. And then I was in slow, everyone's taking algebra, and I'm taking like math, like,
Yours is called math.
That's why I couldn't come up with it. I was like, I'm taking, it was called,
You're just going to math.
I'm going to math. That's a fact,
that's
dude.
funny.
Like and then I get to grad school and
Your
I'm
class is called reading.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding, dude. Woodrow wrecked me because I was just coming out of special ed and I'm like a chicken with my head cut off. Like, how do I catch up? And people are like, you should know this. This is you're in 7th grade. And I'm like, wait, what? It's like, dude, I had a teacher's aide like before you. What are you talking about? Like, dyslexia is rough, man, because you don't know like what you don't know, right? You do so. But then to think about this, fast forward, because the hard work that I learned through high school and sports and actually coaches pushing me, just saying, dude, you realize how great you could be if you push yourself? You coast and you're great. What happens if you push? What happens if you run hills? What happens if you eat right? What happens in, NDSU taught me so much. It's crazy. And then I get to graduate school and people are like, hey, when can you study? I need help. And I'm tutoring people, like, well, not tutoring, but helping my buddies, like colleagues on stats. And here I'm like in special ed math and special ed reading.
Yeah. See, I hear all that and I say, dude, I can start instilling that in Stella at 5 by rewarding and showing her that she can work through some of the problems. Cause we don't just reward, like you said, it's the effort,
Right.
Hey, you tried to do that. So you're going to get a point. Well, why? I didn't do it. Well, because you tried. You didn't cry. You didn't scream. Remember last time you did it, you lost it. This time you didn't lose it.
Correct.
That I want to instill that. And, you didn't get that until high school and middle school and you had a coach. Imagine if you could have got that, at 5.
Right.
And now with Eliza at 2,
Absolutely.
She's as stubborn as it comes. So I got to try to guide some of that stubbornness and some of that, that strong will. Cause that's,
the blessing is Stella is like a Smith. She's compliant and she's loving and she's kind.
Oh man.
And the not so big blessing is Stella is straight Sanchez, like she a little thug.
Man, you mean Eliza?
Sorry, Eliza.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so here's the premise for you. I know this might be overwhelming to you.
That's close us out.
I did a detailed list on our forum there, and I want you to go back and look at the behavioral training. And
I pinned the comment.
Okay, and I pinned it. So read that because I want you to go back and take a look at those. And I want you as a family to highlight one area where you're going to go attack. Maybe it's reward and encouragement. Maybe it's social skills. Maybe it's athletic skills training. Maybe it's we got to start a point system. Just pick one area, and then you two can Google free plans or free whatever, and then how to do social skills training at home. How to do, and then just find a plan and stick with it. They're not going to say, hey, this plan sucks or whatever. They're just going to be like, wait, what? And then you start to hammer that plan and hammer that plan and hammer that plan. Once that's moving smoothly, go back to the list, add a second thing. Now, remember, I changed the word behavioral therapy because technically it was a behavioral therapy camp. So normally there's research doctors running it, but there's typically students, right, running the program. So you don't have to be a PhD level psychologist or a doctor or somebody. You just have to know, like, here's the when then system in this reward plan, and then reward them when they get rewarded, coach them and redirect them when they don't, talk to them. And then if they're on that older plan, take a point away. Just the consistency of the behavioral plan. I don't want you to think my kid has to have behavioral therapy because sometimes where you live, there might not be a behavioral therapist around. I know there's a shortage of mental health services, but I want you to start to tackle this as a family and say, hey, I don't know what to do, but I know these steps. Tonight on the podcast, we renewed our perspective, and now I'm going to move toward uncertainty. And then once we nail a plan down where it's running smoothly, we're going to just talk back what's awesome about that. Like, it's awesome. We started back here and now we're here. Now let's pick up our second behavioral training program, and we're going to run our house like a summer camp, right? Especially since summer's coming. And then the last thing I would say to you is heading into summer here, make sure you talk to your kids and make sure they have summer programming. I don't care if it's, some kind of athletic program, some type of taekwondo program, maybe a day school program, maybe even like our public library systems have these point systems where if you go down and check out a book and check it back in, and then like basically just check a list or turn in an AR form. You get points in the end where you get free dinners and stuff like this. There's a lot of summer type behavioral programs we can do that instill hard work into our kids, because whether they have ADHD or don't, we still want to improve behavioral learning and focus.
Yep. Love
Okay.
it. I like it.
Awesome.
Rue said your math was called Intro to Math.
Basically. Intro
funny.
to what?
Intro to yours is called Intro to Numbers.
Intro to counting.
Yeah. No, I think I like that. I think as parents, we need to put more emphasis on training our kids up in those core values that you just discussed, not making it on a coach or a teacher or any of those people. Let's own raising our kids up to be resilient so they can go out and do what God has called them to do.
Yeah, correct.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, as always, renew your perspective, move on into uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. And don't forget, there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. We love you.
Peace.
To realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.